Hello and welcome to The Recognised Authority. I'm your host, Alistair McDermott. This is season 2, so we are recording live. You are getting us live, unedited, and raw. So please forgive any hiccups in the episode, but we're doing it different this season. So I'm delighted to say that today my guest is Richard van der Blom. Richard is someone who I have seen everywhere on LinkedIn. Every time I log into LinkedIn, Richard, your posts are coming up. And so I figured I got to get this guy on and find out just what exactly you're doing on LinkedIn to make sure that you're always right there in my feed. So Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Alistair. To answer that question, I'm just paying LinkedIn to turn up on your feed. That's the only thing.
So you do training in LinkedIn. That's your business. Just Connecting Hub. That's the name of your agency. Yeah.
Yeah.
And clearly, whatever you're training people in is working for yourself as well. Can you dig into what you're actually doing strategically to make LinkedIn work for you? I think you like to call it rocking LinkedIn.
Yeah. Basically, because I haven't come up with a better name. But what I've been in sales and marketing all my life. I have a sales education. So when I started working in '99, I started a sales job. And although I was in sales, I never liked the process of cold calling, cold selling. But if I would have my initial meeting, if I would be able to travel to the office of my client, I always knew that, I'm persuasive. I know what I'm talking about. And I think that goes for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of salespeople. Once they are at the table of the potential client, they know how to convince. And the biggest win for a lot of us is from identifying your prospect to right until the first meeting. And that's something where LinkedIn can, support you in many ways. So that's why I started back in 30 years now, 2009, I started an agency that was mainly LinkedIn based, LinkedIn focused. And we started just to tell people how to build a brand, how to reach out to people, how to build a network. Mind you, there were no features like Sales Navigator, there were no features like advertising. So it was a complete different platform at that moment. Still, it was an awesome opportunity for people to brand themselves. And if you look at what I've been doing over the last 3 years, because that's when I think my own brand took off, because 2020 January, so that's literally 3 years, I was on 9,000 connections or 9,000 followers. Now I'm on 90,000. That's something from the last 3 years, and I've been on LinkedIn for 15 years. I think it's consistency. I'm turning up, like you said, I try to post about 5 times a week, sometimes 6, 7 a week, depends on if I have quality content. And focus is very important. So now I have 2 main topics. I speak about thought leadership, and I speak about social selling, virtual selling. So how can you use LinkedIn to generate leads? And before that, I had a lot of my posts that were literally LinkedIn focused, but all topics, whether it was for recruitment, whether it was a new feature, whether it was a new setting. And I think people really like generalists because they provide great value, but clients are paying for specialists. So I really noticed that since I start to focus with consistency, with authenticity as well, that my brand took off.
Yeah, you're talking my language here, talking about focus and specialization and things like that. So that's really interesting. So you were talking about all things LinkedIn, and you weren't having as much success as when you narrowed down your focus within LinkedIn to those 2 topics of social selling and thought leadership. Is that right?
Yeah, and I can still see it, and probably you will recognize it, Alistair. If LinkedIn has a new feature, for example, when LinkedIn introduced the bell feature in February, March, you have about 90% of the people that have LinkedIn related services, so talk about LinkedIn trainers, LinkedIn experts, creating a post literally saying, there is a bell. And if you ring the bell, this is what happens. And that's it. Where I try to go like, okay, this is the bell. And from a strategic way, if you're going to use it like this is what could happen to your audience. This is what could happen to your visibility. So instead of bringing only the new feature, I've tried ever since, like I told you, the last 2-3 years, like to take my content 3 steps further and explain people in a strategical way. It's nice that you can ring a bell. It's nice that you have a pinned comment, but how do you make use of it strategically? And I think that translation is what really helps people to start following you and start appreciating your posts. And that goes for all topics. I mean, if you're in recruitment or if you're in marketing or if you're a designer, you can inform your community about something like news. But if you take it 1, 2, 3 steps further and explain how they can use it so they benefit from it, then it makes you more worthwhile to follow, no?
Mm-hmm. So when you say you're going strategic with that, you're going much deeper. You're going past the surface level into what the knock-on effects of using that kind of feature, and so you're basically delving deeper into whatever those topics are, be it the bell or be it something else, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something I've noticed is that when you have focus, when you have specialization, you're able to go deeper, because it's hard as a generalist to go beneath the surface level, because if you're a generalist, you're kind of flitting across the surface, across many different things, and it can be very difficult. I know there are some people who are incredibly smart, kind of voracious consumers of information who are able to go deep on everything, but they're very, very few. So something I talk a lot about in the show, and I have a whole podcast called the Specialization Podcast, which is just about that. It's about niching down and focusing. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I'm really interested in how you came to the realization that you needed to go from focusing on everything LinkedIn and to focus down on these 2 topics of social selling and thought leadership. Was that an epiphany for you? How did that happen?
How I created this focus, you mean?
Yeah. How did you come to that realization, and how did you decide to focus down on these things?
Well,
was it by accident?
No, it went in steps, because it's funny you mentioned the generalist again, because until 2015, our agency did all the social media platforms. So we did Facebook training, Twitter training, everything. And I also did Facebook training, Twitter training. And every time I had a training, I knew that I know much more than my clients, but I didn't feel as comfortable as with LinkedIn. So I felt like, okay, I know maybe 70, 75%, my clients know 15%. So I can help them with the first 2 steps, but I want to be a professional. I want to know 99.9%. And with the current speed of development of social media platforms, it's impossible to say like I'm an expert in all these social media platforms. And I saw a niche in becoming a LinkedIn 100% focused agency in 2015. So that's why I chose to transform Just Connecting to a 100% focused LinkedIn agency. So that was the first thing we did. And we lost some clients because we had some clients where we provided LinkedIn trainings and Facebook trainings and blog trainings. But in the end, and this took us about 3 to 6 months, clients came to us with like literally 100% LinkedIn questions, and they valued our expertise. So that was the first thing. Second thing was that I decided in 2019, like I'm Dutch from origin. So my posts were about 70% in Dutch, 30% in English. And in 2019, I decided to have English as the main language for our company. So all our content now is in English. Our website is built in English, everything, which obviously creates a much broader target audience, because I'm aware that LinkedIn has a translation button, but if you share your post in English, you instantly reach a wider audience. And I think the third thing that happened was the pandemic. Because we were an agency, I flew a lot. I spent a lot of time in hotels because we did trainings on site, in company, on site, on location, even if it was like outside Europe. And it's funny. You probably remember this, that if in 2019 you would say to someone who asked for an on-site training, no, we do it online, they would say no, because we don't believe in that. It's difficult. People are used to,
It was a hard sell.
it was a
Yeah.
hard sell. People are used to going to the office. And when the pandemic struck us, and I live now in Spain, so we had a severe lockdown, and my calendar got like deleted. All the 3 months I had booked 2020. It happened here in March, and my agenda was fully booked until June. Then you have the 2 summer months, and even in September, October, I had already bookings, and it was like literally vanished everything. Everybody was canceling. So then I had like a rough month, and then I decided to transform all our materials into online sessions, and we just give it a go. And over the past 2 years, we have been optimizing that. And the combination of working in English together with online modules based on many years of experience, well, that was we hit the bullseye with that, because the sky's the limit. You can deliver training to an Australian company in the morning, to an American company in the late afternoon, without traveling. And obviously, all our clients are also, after 2 years, almost 3 years now, are perfectly used to follow trainings online. So that was the third thing that happened.
Yeah, really interesting. There's something you mentioned there. You said that clients valued your expertise a bit more when you niche down to just LinkedIn. Is that a result of the specialization? Is that what you found as well?
Yeah.
Because you were just saying we only do LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and is that a perception that that you found, that as soon as you specialize in something that people assume and kind of value it more because they assume that you're better at it?
Yeah, I think it's perception, Alistair, because I use it now as a USP. One of the things I say, if we are up to, I don't know, PR or communication agencies or even sales training agencies who also provide LinkedIn trainings in their, like, and I always say, like, we're a 100% dedicated LinkedIn agency. So don't ask us anything about Facebook or your website, 100% LinkedIn. But because we work with people who are 100% specialized in LinkedIn. And for us, that is really one of the USPs, not because we say it, but as a feedback from clients. Like, no, we're looking for an expert, and you guys seem to know everything about LinkedIn. So that's a good thing. Definitely perception.
Yeah, and I mean, my take on this is that the perception is massive. I think that it's huge in how it changes things, but then also it becomes reality, because as soon as you focus on one thing, you're able to go much deeper on it, because you're not spending time looking at Facebook and Twitter and everything else.
And in addition,
Yeah.
if, for example, I now have a client from the UK, and he was looking for the sales team for like a social selling training, which means that their primary channel is LinkedIn. And they always also went like, maybe we can also have a look at blog or Twitter. And then they went like, and what's your opinion? I said, that's perfectly fine. If your people are, if they want to expand their knowledge on Twitter, if they want to know, how to write blogs, we will partner with some preferred partners and make sure in our program they will provide that training. But we ourselves are not going to do it, because we're 100% specialized LinkedIn. And I had other clients that asked me questions, which we could have done, but we just said no, because it would take us so much energy to create a training that is not a core business. And if you say no, because we're not the best in that, no, because it's not a focus, it creates trust and credibility with your client, because you're not there to make a buck. You're there to provide the best possible service for your client.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love, and we have gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole, because I'm so interested in following up on that specialization piece. I think it's incredibly important. But I do want to bring you back to the two topics that you were talking about originally, which is social selling and thought leadership. And in particular, thought leadership, I'm really interested in what you think thought leadership is, and then how you apply that and what you talk to your clients about. Can you give me a little bit of your philosophy on thought leadership?
I think, a possible definition on thought leadership is an experienced, informed opinion leader that people like to go to with their questions. So, really the person to go to if you have any questions. If people value you as a thought leadership on, for example, let's say social selling, then it means that whenever a question that is social selling related comes up in their mind, there's only one name they think about. That's, for example, Richard. We need to go to Richard because Richard is the person to go to. So I think it's also a sweet spot in your network, in your community, where you get a lot of questions asked by the right people. That's also very important, because thought leadership, you can only be thought leader if you have the right community. That's inevitable. Because, for example, I see people now on LinkedIn. A lot of people now are creating posts on how to get more reach on LinkedIn, because it's content that gets great numbers of reach, because everybody's looking for, like, the golden egg. But their services and their network are not like LinkedIn related. So they try to be like an expert, an opinion leader, while their network and the community is not resonating with the type of content. So they will never see conversion to their business. So I think that's also very important. You create a community, potential clients, peers that in the end might want to book you for your services or for your solutions.
Okay, let's dig into that a little bit, because that resonance, that alignment between your network and what your offerings are. Can you talk a little bit about how you make that fit, how you make that work? How do you ensure that the 90,000 people following you on or connecting with you on LinkedIn are actually potential clients?
It's more about connecting, because I don't have any influence on who's following me. Obviously, I can block people if I don't want them to follow me. And I do check my new followers, but whether they are competitors, potential clients, or just people that like my content, that's up to them. My followers base enables me to get a bigger reach. My followers make it possible for my content eventually to turn up in the feed of my potential clients. The thing I can influence are my connections. Okay, so for example, if I see a very well-written piece of content from somebody in sales or marketing, my two main target audiences, I always reach out. So if you would have written an article about, I don't know, the need for AI in sales, or the 3 steps how to improve sales, and I really like the content and we were not connected yet, I reach out and say, hey, I just saw your blog via my network. I would like to connect with you because you seem to provide a lot of value. So I'm proactively building my network with people that provide value, which is insightful and relevant for my target audience. Second, all the people that I meet, and I mean in real life, email, that I phone, that have requested information about our services, whether in the end they become a client or not, I directly connect with them. So I get a web form, somebody is asking for information. First thing I do, I turn to LinkedIn and say, hey, you just requested some information. I will get back to you via a separate email, but whatever happens, let us connect. And then I check, for example, the engagement on my content. I check who has viewed my profile. I screen, and if it's management director level in sales or marketing related job titles, I always reach out to them. And I always would say, like, hey, thanks for visiting my profile. Was it something about social selling? One of my updates, maybe another reason? I would like to know. Let's connect. If somebody comments or likes my content, second, third degree, marketing, sales related, we're not connected, I reach out. Hey, thanks for the engagement. Let's connect. You will see more of my insights, and I'm curious about what you are sharing on LinkedIn. So, and that is something that very few people are actively doing. They might do it like once every month, or whenever it comes to their mind, but I do it like in a very structured way every week. I check for those touching points every week.
Yeah, so is it, and just to get into specifics, is that one day a week that you're doing that, or are you doing it every single day? Do you set aside an hour or two? Like, how long does that actually take for you to do?
No, I check who has visited my profile. I check it twice a week. I normally check it on Monday and on Thursday, so after the weekend, and then I catch up on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and on Thursday to catch up on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Whenever I publish a new post, which is most in the morning, then I go back to the post from the day before, and then I scroll to all the likes, and I just see, like, okay, is there any interesting person that I want to connect with? So that's on a daily basis. And I think on average, I spend about 20 minutes a day on LinkedIn to do these kind of things, to look for my notifications, to invite people. Could be up to half an hour, but it's definitely not more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I do spend more
Okay,
time.
so
I do spend more time on LinkedIn per day, but that's just to find potential clients or to do a filter or to read things. But to maintain my network and to convert people that have shown themselves on my profile, on my content, into building a very strong business-related network, that will take me about 20 minutes, 30 minutes max.
yeah, and so you're posting 5 to 7 times a week. You mentioned earlier, and you mentioned it's got to be quality content. You're focusing on 2 topics, so you're writing that content. Are you writing that yourself, or do you have a team that writes for you?
No, I write all my content self.
Cool. And so that sounds like a lot of time in content creation. How much time are you actually spending writing?
I could spend quite some time. It comes and goes with me. It's like sometimes I write 4 hours and then I have, like, I don't know, input for 3, 4, 5 posts, and then sometimes I want to write but nothing comes up, or I just don't have. It's like a mini writer's block I sometimes have. I think the process of writing is not what takes me the most of time. I think what takes a lot of people too much time is thinking about what is it that I'm going to write? What is the topic I want to write? And that I have very clear. I work with 5 pillars. So I have 5 pillars. Within these pillars, I have subtopics, and it's just a matrix. I know that sales director, sales manager, sales professionals, one target, marketing managers, marketing directors, C-level is another target. Then I have my 5 pillars. I have different topics. So you create a matrix, and I know, like, every 2 weeks I write something about Sales Navigator. Every 2 weeks I write something about employee advocacy. Every week I try to have, mainly in the weekend, a more personal post, which could be about a book I've read, which could be about something I experience in day-to-day life that I want to share. So I think that's where the majority of people struggle with. Writing itself is not a problem, but to come up with the topics day by day, that's the problem. Or a challenge.
Now, you mentioned so you mentioned 3 A's: authenticity, being authentic, being active, and being approachable.
Yeah, AAA. I call it AAA.
Yeah. So obviously, clearly, you're very active, both in creating content and in reaching out to people. In terms of approachability, is that what you're talking about the personal posts, or does that run through all of your posts?
No, that's a very good. It helps. I mean, if I would only put out like things like the algo report and things like researchers, it gives you the status of a thought leader, but it does not necessarily makes you approachable. I think it could even be the other way around, that people go like, okay, don't reach out to this guy because he's busy, he gets a lot, and don't bother him. I think that one of the goals of your personal content is to show yourself and invite people, and that's what I do in my call to action. If you have a question, connect with me on LinkedIn, follow me, ring my bell, send me a DM. So I'm actively inviting my network, my audience, to connect with me. So that's the first thing. That's content related. But I'm also talking about, for example, in my featured section, there is a direct Calendly link where people can book a call with me if they have a question or whatever. So that's also something that I say, like, okay, make it easy for people to convert, again, if it's relevant, to an appointment or to connect with you. So it's about how you build your profile. It's your content, but it's definitely showing yourself in an authentic way. And also guide people. What kind of questions can you contact me for? But what kind of questions I would rather not have you to contact me? Because if you say like, okay, whatever LinkedIn question you have, contact me, I would be like, it would be disastrous for my time.
Yeah. So, okay. That's really, I mean, the whole strategy you've laid out there is really impressive. It sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like you are spending a lot of time at this. I'm interested in the content. You don't talk about video much there. Is that a strategic decision, or can you tell me a little bit about that? Because you seem to have a lot of text posts that you put up.
Yeah, it's basically because One of my like I'm a semi-perfectionist. That's a semi-perfectionist, which means
Yeah.
I want to do everything in a perfect way, but I never succeed. And I created a few carousels myself. They look dreadful, and that's when I thought, okay, I need to like have someone to support me with the carousels, which I have since last year. So now I just have the copy and somebody else creates the carousels, and I get a lot of compliments about the design. They're not mine. Text posts I can
Hmm.
write myself. But video, there we go. Like I don't have like I have a smartphone, I don't have a camera. You need someone to shoot, you need someone to edit. So that's the main reason why I don't have a lot of video. And I knew that this was like a weak point of my own content strategy. And that's actually why in December, one of my colleagues in the hub, who is a video professional, Thomas Slotboom, he came to Valencia and we recorded 24 videos
Hmm.
of me sitting on a couch. We call it Couch Talk with Richard.
Yeah.
I've published two. I received already great feedback, but there's still 22 to come. So I have now my video content until like May, and then probably we will do a new shooting.
Cool. So you're going to do one of those, release one of those each week,
Yep.
yeah?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
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 Because
And
we have chosen topics that are, well, I don't know if I would reuse them in 3 years from now that it will still be relevant, but definitely for the next month they're relevant. So it's not something that about a new
yeah.
feature, but it's more again in a strategical way.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Cool. Yeah, and it looks great. I see you there, and you're in a very beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, yeah.
A friend of mine lives just across the bay, I guess, from you in Palma.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, beautiful place. So okay, so that's interesting, and it's one of the reasons why I'm now recording season 2 of this podcast as live. And we're recording this live, and it's not going to be edited; it's going to be put straight out. But then the next step for the iteration of the podcast is going to be that I'm going to be actually live broadcasting the entire interview from start to finish.
Cool.
So that's kind of that'll be a little bit later in probably once I get my workflow together for that. But yeah, it's because I'm trying to fight against that perfectionist instinct.
No, no, no.
Because if I don't do that, I won't put it out, because I have video from all of season 1. But because we edited it, we didn't put it out because I would had to edit all the video,
But
and
I was the same.
so I'm kind of resisting that.
No, no, I was the same. I have a girlfriend who is a very creative. She has a camera. She shot videos. She did the editing. I mean, she's not a professional video editor, but she's very, very like gifted in it. And it was never good enough. And I was always like, no, but I hesitate. No, but I said a word wrong. And like, again, I'm not native English. You probably know, you hear. And when Thomas came in December, he's also Dutch. We were here in Valencia. And he said, like, we're not going to script anything. I said, no. He said, just come up with a topic, have a thing. Okay, what are the things you want to say? And then we do just one take. If you don't like it, we can do a second take, but that's it. And to be honest, all the 24 videos, none of them is a second take. They're all the first take. So you have the blah, blah, you have some words that I mispronounce or whatever, but we just went like, okay, let's make it authentic. Let's not make it scripted. Let's not do take 67. Again, the feedback is great. So I'm totally on the same page as you are, Alistair.
Yeah, and I think that you hit the nail on the head there. Like, it is more authentic because it's not perfect, and people can see that it's not perfect. You might stumble over words or forget something, or say, oh yeah, I forgot to say, and then add that in at the end. That's all the kind of stuff that I do when I'm recording videos, and then I decide, oh, you know what, I've recorded this, but I'm not going to put it out because it's not perfect. And so this year I'm saying, no, forget it. I'm putting that video out because it's good enough.
Yeah.
And it's good enough, and it could help somebody. And so if it's good enough, if it's not totally unprofessional, obviously if it's unprofessional, but I do think that we need to resist the urge to try and make everything perfect before putting it out as content creators, because talking about thought leadership, and the people listening to this probably want to become, because they want to become known as an authority in their field, they probably want to become known as that thought leader. And the only way to do that is to put your content, put your ideas out into the world. And if we have this internal editor who's standing over everything and saying, no, that's not good enough to go out, that's not good enough to go out, we just won't put it out. So we have to kind of loosen the reins on that. At least that's the way I feel about myself personally, and I see that with a lot of people. I know that there are people who go the opposite way and probably release some stuff that isn't good enough to go out to the world. But I kind of feel like most of the people who I talk to are the other way. They're
Yeah, and for me, it's all about the goal. A lot of people, when they publish content on LinkedIn, they think they always need to have the same goal. Like, I'm in sales, so the goal of all my posts should be, I need to land a new client. It's impossible. So if I'm recording a video or if I'm writing a post off the grid, so like it doesn't need to be perfect because it's authentic. It's something that's coming to my mind. It's a picture I recently took. But if I go to an event as a keynote speaker, for example, I was last year in May, I was in Denmark for a LinkedIn event. I was a keynote speaker. So there were pictures taken, there were videos made. And I think 1 week after, 2 weeks after, I released a video of a bit more than a minute to give people an impression about my keynote, about the venue, about the audience. And that was perfect. I wouldn't do that if it wasn't perfect. That needs to be like subtitles, nice music, and it's really, well, it's a very high quality piece of content because it's a different goal. You want to give potential clients an idea, and if we book Richard, this is what we get, this is what he does. So it's all about choosing the right moments when your content needs to be like, let's say, 2 stars higher than average. And sometimes it's just, a roughly taken selfie, a post that you create just because you want to ventilate something can get like thousands of reach just because it's authentic.
Yeah, and that's something that I think people struggle with a little bit. It's something I struggle with myself. I'm naturally a very private person, and I don't really like to talk about myself and put up the personal stuff. Can you help me and anybody who is like me, who's listening to this, can you help me understand, like, where's the barrier? What should I be putting up in terms of kind of showing a little bit more of my non-business side?
Well, the barrier is up to you. I see people post things on LinkedIn, and in real life, I'm not extrovert on LinkedIn. I give people an insight in my life, and sometimes I even publish things. I made a post like one I have here when my dad was diagnosed with cancer. I made a post about my relationship with my dad until the diagnosis, and what I thought about it. And it was not a goal to get like a huge amount of reach. It was just like, I want to ventilate myself. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. This is my network. And the support I got from the community, the direct messages, more than 300 from clients, from people I've never met, saying, Richard, hang in there, your dad will be great. That for me was already one of the proofs that sometimes sharing things can actually help you. But I have spoken with other people who say, I would never publish that on LinkedIn because that's not business. So everybody needs to think about his or her own barriers. You need to feel comfortable. But I've noticed that, again, one of the advantages of showing people just a bit more about who you are in private makes you more trustworthy. People resonate. It makes you more approachable. And if you want to go from zero, and I mean by zero, like not sharing anything that is not business related, to posting more personal stuff, start with something that has a link between your personal life and your business life. Start making a picture of yourself with the book you have recently finished and saying, hey, I've read this book. These are my 3 takeaways. If you are in this business, this should be on your next reading list. Because you show yourself, it's a book you have personally read, but it's also business related. Those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm totally an introvert, which I know some people find is a bit weird, me saying that because they see me on a podcast or doing video or whatever. But I've trained myself into being able to do this. But yeah, I'm totally an introvert by nature, and so I kind of avoid going to parties and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's trying to find that line of where I'm comfortable with it and where I don't want to come across as being going the opposite way of trying to like you see people where they put everything out there and I could put up a million cat photos if I wanted to because I have two very photographable cats that look very good. So but I don't want to put that stuff up because that's not relevant, right? So it's about finding that line, like where do you put it?
What I did last year, and what for me was, from my own personal experience, the best example of personal post is I made a picture of my gardener and myself. I don't know if you've seen it. It has been in my featured section. My gardener he's 73 or 74. He lives a couple houses further. He's illiterate, so he doesn't know how to read. He doesn't know how to write. He started working when he was 9. And when I bought a house from an English couple, he did their gardening. I didn't know that. So I bought a house, I moved to Spain, and 2 months later he was on my gate and trying to explain that he was the gardener and if I needed help. And I was stupid enough to say no, because I had this great idea that I was going to do my big garden all by myself. And then luckily, and this is where the story begins, 2 months later he shows up and he says, like, I've seen your garden, it looks like shit. You need help. And I said, yeah, because I didn't know where he went, I didn't know where he lived, but he was right. So, and this happened almost 4 years ago. So he started coming like 4 hours a week. And then something happened with my swimming pool that looked like a mess. And he was like, I can paint your swimming pool. I can, because I used to work like in building construction when I was young. And I said, okay, go ahead. And all the things he does, he's proactive. He exceeds expectations. 1 year we came back from Holland from holiday and he had made a vegetable garden. So he had made a vegetable garden in my garden because once I told him that in Holland I had my own vegetable garden, but I don't have time in Spain to do it. So he created, and he said, don't worry, I'll be here every week to give it water. And so I created this post with him, pictured, said, this is Joaquin, his name. I said, this is the best salesperson I've ever met in my life. And then I explained proactively, exceeding expectations, um, communicative. And this resonated with a lot of salespeople. They were like, wow, this is indeed what a good salesperson needs to have. And because it's a personal story with a personal picture, I received 500,000 views with that post.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. It's in your featured section if you scroll across a couple of posts, and I'll link to your profile in the show notes. Yeah, and yeah, cross selling, taking initiative, proactive, upselling.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
That's great. Yeah,
exactly.
And Joaquin looks like a cool guy as well.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah, that's really fascinating, and I know that this issue of bleeding the personal into the business stuff, I know it's something I want to do a bit more, and I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know like how much is relevant. Like I am a total sports addict.
Oh, well.
I'm also and I don't know, like, should I bring that into it? I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy books. I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this don't want to know anything about that. There's those parts of things. I do boxing. I started doing boxing for fitness and then discovered that I actually really enjoy it as a sport. So I'm working with my boxing coach at the moment. I'm doing a 6-week pre-fight training plan. I don't have a fight planned.
I double dare you to put out a picture of you and your boxing coach in gear, and then create a post about why you do it, what it brings to you, what value does it have for you, how has it changed your life, and I guarantee you this post will blow up.
Okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I challenge you, Alistair, and I'm 100% sure that it will be one of the best read posts of this year.
All right, I'm going to do that.
Cool.
I'll get a photo with my coach Stephen tonight. So
cool.
So okay, we're coming towards the end of the show. So I told you that I have four questions I really like to ask people. The first is, what is the number one tip that you would give somebody who wants to build their authority and personal brand?
Authenticity. It may be a bit of a cliche, but the pitfall of having hundreds of people telling you how you can build your brand, how you can make a carousel, how you can make good posts, is that we all do the same thing, which is not our own tone of voice, which is not our own style. So for me, authenticity on LinkedIn is the way how you build your profile. The things you put out there, it needs to come from you. If it doesn't resonate with you, but you see that other people are successful in doing it, don't copy it, and find the things that resonate with yourself. So for a personal brand, authenticity is, I think, the foundation.
Yeah, I love it. What about business mistakes? Have you experienced a business mistake or failure that you can tell us about? And can you tell us what you learned from that?
Oh, I've made many mistakes. I've made many mistakes. The biggest mistake I made is that once I almost sold the company, including myself, just for the money of somebody offered us not well a decent amount of money, because we were not doing great. So we had money issues. You know what I mean? It was like it was crisis. We had made some stupid choices. And my whole gut feeling said no, because this party, this guys are not going to bring you any further. But they said, okay, we're going to buy your company. You stay in the company for 2 years. We make it big, and you will not have any problems. Luckily, I had in the contract that if I wanted to go back within the first 6 months, I could like literally shred out the contract and get back my own company, which I did in like 1.5 months already. So I think that the urge to make money can come with a risk of you taking the wrong choices. So you go for the money instead of for the building blocks that eventually will create a great business. And it's logical, but if you have a house, if you have a family, if you have a mortgage, you need to have money. But that's one of the things that I'm definitely not going to do anymore.
Yeah, I think that the book Scarcity talks about this, about particularly when you're in a situation where you need more money, you don't have enough, that actually changes the decisions that you make, and it makes people make bad decisions, long-term bad decisions, because of that scarcity, that lack.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really interesting, and that brings me on to business books. Is there a book or resource that's been important for you or that you would recommend?
I'm currently reading a lot of books that are written by connections of mine that are in social selling LinkedIn. But I remember one of the books that I really like. It's still on my in my bedroom. Is the one from Robin Sharma. And Robin Sharma, a lot of people know him from the book The Monk That Sold His Ferrari. But I read another one, which is The Greatness Guide. It's about I think it's 100 lessons for a better life, and it's 100 lessons as an entrepreneur, as a partner. And that book is, what I really liked about that is that it's very pragmatic. So I think it's like 100 pages, and on every page there is one lesson, and it goes from having a morning routine, it goes from how you make decisions. It's really a cool book. Robin Sharma, The Greatness Guide.
Cool, excellent. And I'll find that and link that in the show notes as well.
Cool.
And then finally, just on kind of the lighter side, is there any fiction that you read, or if not fiction, do you watch TV?
I don't watch TV. I watch Netflix, which I heard that it's not. You cannot call it TV anymore because. No, I don't. I don't read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of like study books and books that are business related. But yeah, on Netflix, I really loved Peaky Blinders, because of, again, I love like the early 1900s, the period around like the First World War, and especially like the scenery in Peaky Blinders, the music. I'm a big Nick Cave fan, and the theme song is from Nick Cave, so that was really awesome.
Yeah.
But I can also really enjoy something that is way off from that. For example, Squid Game. The one that was from Korea, which is a bit futuristic, those kind of things.
Yeah, really interesting. Peaky Blinders is fantastic. I love both of those shows actually. But Peaky Blinders, the music in it is brilliant, and the sets and the acting and everything is very good.
The sets, they really, and I don't know, but Peaky Blinders is a series that, for me, especially in winter time,
Hmm.
you know, if you look at it at winter time with the sets, with the darkness, with the music, it's really a. Oh, I can keep
Yeah,
watching that for ages.
yeah, yeah. I recommend both of those as well. Oh, Richard, where can people find you if they want to learn more?
Obviously on LinkedIn, Alistair. So on LinkedIn, Richard van der Blom. You know, follow me, ring the bell. I still have some connection room left because there's a 30,000 limit, and I'm growing there rapidly. So I need to be a bit more selective about accepting connections. But people can follow me. People can send me an email, a DM if they have any questions. Yeah, and you know, if they like my content or if there's any questions, they can engage with my content. So that's really the place where people can find me.
Yeah, I definitely recommend following your content. As much to learn about what you're doing as from the content itself. The content is brilliant, but also it's great to watch what you're doing as well. I can learn so much just from that. So Richard van der Blom, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Alistair. It was my pleasure.